This is a wild case of furry tracing AI art drama, and it involves multiple people. So all of this starts with Twitter user Selinar Snowcat, who makes a post, and you can't really see it right now, but they write, I took the original art, an amazing piece from Moth Dusky, and dropped it into Grok Imagine. Didn't even give it a prompt and it produced this. I'm speechless. This is the video that was produced. So this is the screen grab of the artwork, and I think we can all agree that it is gross to go take an art piece that you receive from somebody and then go and run AI on it. Almost all artists would already be very unhappy with you for doing this in the first place. But secondly, it's just like a major disrespect towards the artist in general. And third, literally in Moth's TOS, it says, don't use any of my art commission or not in AI training and generating. So it's a direct violation against Moth's, who is the artist, TOS. The person who did this then kind of goes on to like really double down all over Twitter because like their personal view is that, oh, because they paid for their artwork, they can then do everything they want to do with the artwork. That's not how art works. If you purchase artwork, which I just think is interesting because they are a furry and furries are pretty deep in the art community because, you know, that's how they get images of their persona and their work. Like with art, for the most part, I don't know, depending on like the agreement you have with your artist, it's very like dependent on what you and the artist agreed on. Typically the artist will sell you the art with a limited scope of usage that you can do with it. So they'll be like, oh, you can use the art for anything personal, or you can use the art for personal and you can use it for stuff related to your like Twitch stream or whatever, that's fine. Or you get full commercial usage of the artwork and you can like put it on mouse pads to sell as merch. Or they will sell you full ownership of the artwork. So then you can use the artwork however you please as if you own the piece yourself because they sold you the ownership of it. But they're all like different tiers, and just because you bought a commission from somebody doesn't mean you have ownership of the artwork. That's a separate thing that gets sold. That is just a little thing. Now, again, I'm not a lawyer and I will only speak on like the US because that's where I live, but typically in like art stuff, that's kind of how it really operates here. So I personally disagree with the, oh, I paid for it so I can do whatever the hell I want with it. And I think this is interesting because Selena then had posted this actually before they did the AI thing, writing, you're now exposed as lying and being disingenuous. You know very well I never said to scam people. And these are DMs between Moth and Selena, where Moth is like, you want me to put my work and put it into Gen AI and scam people out of money? Do you know how dumb that sounds? You want me to rob clients blind? And Selena says, I didn't say scam at all. Don't put words in my mouth. Happy to go into more detail if you want to better understand it. And Moth is like, that's scamming people, offering services that I don't do. And Selena says, with the idea that so many artists are negative on AI, you can take the other stance and lean into its use and allow it in your TOS. You can even offer to creatively handle animations of drawn art that you've already created by using AI. Happy to break it down further. And a commenter left a funny comment writing, this is a weird way to say, I fed an artist's art to dogshit AI because I'm evil and have no respect for artists. Cool yapping though. And again, by the way, I just want to add, don't send hate to any parties involved. I think this person is like truly enjoying instigating other people with what they're doing. Like they're trying to get a reaction out of people. But Moth had sent a DMCA for the AI generated piece and actually won. So Moth puts out this tweet writing, those quote, artists don't hold copyright after completion, end quote, furs got really quiet all of a sudden. Support real artists. And their DMCA takedown ratio got a lot of likes on Twitter, and people were really supporting them and completely agreeing. And I agree, right? Like, I do not think that people should be taking artwork created by artists and running AI on them, unless the artist, for some reason, explicitly consented to you doing so, which, again, most artists will not. But then you would probably think this is the end of the situation, except something new cropped up. This is a post tweeted out by Amora Bunny, who writes, interesting development from Moth Dusky. Tracing AI? So AI does have value, despite what people said. And everyone defending Moth Dusky, who are anti-AI completely, will they denounce them for using AI? For being hypocritical? Interesting times indeed. If I'm wrong, please let me know because dang. And here is a photo of an AI image of a furry astronaut floating in space generated by a user by the name of Plague. And this was created September 14th, 2024. And here you can see the prompt information here. And so this is in reference to this art piece that Moth made July 9th, 2025. And if you put it side by side, really similar, basically one-to-one. And if I open it here in Photoshop, it does overlap one-to-one, in fact. With the backpack straps, the pockets on the shoulders, even the creasing in the clothing looking identical. Now, Moth goes out to defend themselves. And I personally, when I was like looking at this, I was literally like, let me look at like every single way possible that this is not true, right? Because like this person expresses publicly that they're very anti-AI, and I want to believe you. I really do. So Cal writes, quick question, mostly for educational purposes. Does the usage and training of AI fall under your copyright? And they attached that photo that I had just showed you of the AI dog in space. And Moth says, hey, so this wasn't traced via AI. The pose was just very commonly used. So they attached an overlap between the art pieces, drawing over it to indicate how there's elements that's different, showing that the arms don't line up, the backpack isn't lined up, the hands aren't lined up, the legs aren't lined up, the face doesn't match. When I first saw this, right, I was like, oh, perfect. Okay, they didn't trace AI. Like, I'm just going to look into this and we're going to find out exactly how people have like falsely spun the narrative to make it look like they did. And then you put it into Photoshop. And yes, the background, the very, very background, the space part is very different. But why does it line up like exactly 1-to-1? So Moth had also attached a speed paint as well, where you can see them kind of like sketching on a canvas with 2 photos of astronauts on the side as references. And everybody has a very different sketching process. So like, you know, we can add commentary to this, but everybody does sketch in a very different way. They kind of don't block out the body or pose at all. And they just kind of like go for the sketch, which some people do draw like this. And upon like drawing the sketch, they basically don't have to make any changes or alterations to the position of anything, the head, the arms, the leg, the body. This is a more like unique pose, I would say, because it is somebody floating in space. So, you know, it's a bit more fluid of a pose. So, but they are an artist that's been drawing since 2023 in the exact same style. It's not like, you know, their style deteriorated or like rapidly, massively improved within like X amount of time. If you go down their Instagram, you can find that this is their style and they just draw like this for years. So maybe they just have gotten like really familiar with drawing personas. I was asking somebody that I know that's a furry about this. So they're like wolf personas where they're very like dog like, and that's typically what Moth draws. So maybe they just became like really, really good at doing it after doing it for a couple of years, like very proficiently. So they also attach a photo of one of the references that they used and a screenshot of the canvas info. We can see the total strokes is 3,500. The track time is just under 4 hours and the file size as well to show that, you know, they did paint this. And then a day later, they add this. Hi, everyone. So I want to reach out and talk about some controversy that's been plaguing the timeline, namely this piece. This thread will have a timeline of start and finish of this piece to show evidence I didn't trace this image from the provided AI. I want to thank these individuals for helping me gather the evidence, as the metadata proved there's no evidence of tracing from me, as the start of production of this commission was 2.5 months ahead of the creation of the AI image. Where here we have the timeline in 2024 of like April, their waitlist opened and then the commissioner was added to the queue and they started the sketch in like late July. And in August is roughly when the client said they got the work in progress. And then there was a big delay, which Moth said was completely their fault due to like circumstance. And they finally started like posting again and like finishing the piece July 2025. And they attach a speed paint of the sketching process, which is this video here. So I just kind of like slowed it down a little bit so you can take a look at the sketching process. But they basically start out with the head and they kind of like box in the muzzle area and they kind of go a little bit more into detail in drawing the head. And once they finish the head, they kind of go into drawing the body and they basically start with drawing the torso. Then they go into drawing the straps for the backpack. And then they start moving onto one arm. They draw the upper arm and then they kind of draw half of the lower arm and then they go in with the belt and then finish up the hands on the right arm. They do half of the left arm and then move on to kind of like iterating on how a backpack should look like. And then they draw the crotch, then go to render more of the arm and then move on to kind of like cleaning up the legs. I think it's interesting they draw like the arrows for like the direction of how the leg is supposed to be flowing. You know, every artist has their own different like process to draw. So maybe this like helps them, you know, get the direction right because it is a more like different pose of somebody floating in the sky. And yeah, so they continue adding in detail. Again, like they don't do any sort of boxing in on the body for the sketch or having to like reposition or move it in any way, which to some people would imply that they're kind of like tracing an image that you can't see in Procreate because you can add hidden layers and trace it and it won't show up in the time lapse for Procreate. But on the flip side of the coin, again, they just could be really proficient at specifically drawing this type of character. And then they continue that they, you know, because there is a huge turnaround, it is completely their fault and that they had to take a step back to avoid harassment and gather proof. Moth then adds, wanted to bring up this post as well. This one was rather baseless as the artist even claimed it was a common reference. But somebody had posted writing, oh, here's an example of like art tracing that Moth Dusky has done. It's a photo of a your character here, Moth offers, alongside artwork made by somebody by the name of Excalibur. And as you can see, the two do line up like very, very closely. But the artist in question, Excalibur Wolf, writes, my artwork was a reference to this image here. They could have likely used the same one, as it is shown a lot with maw/dog teeth aesthetic. I don't know, best to drop it. They've already been through enough. I appreciate the support and look out. And yeah, I mean, you can see here, this is Excalibur's artwork. This is the reference photo. It's really similar. This is Moth's artwork. Very similar to Excalibur's work, sure. Also really similar to this reference photo. So, I mean, on one hand, you could make the argument, oh, okay, maybe Moth took a look at Excalibur's work and like directly traced it. It does line up a lot. I'm not denying that. But I do personally believe that it's very likely that they both ended up using the same reference photo for the reason of the ratio that Moth's artwork is cropped. You see how it's cropped off like most of the ear and a little bit of the nose of the dog? And that is exactly the same ratio of cropping on this photo as well, the reference photo. So I do think it's very likely they just both referenced the same photo and it just ended up looking like this. I think that one's really possible. And then Moth adds, here's the speed paint to set anyone at ease. Apologies, just as I doodled on this canvas quite a bit before actually drawing it. So here they do have a speed paint of them painting it as well. And because they do work in Procreate, it's always a little hard to give like full benefit of doubt to somebody who works in Procreate. And it sucks. It's for the reason that Procreate just has this feature where you can insert private images and then trace over it. I swear, I don't know who asked for this feature, but regardless, it's in Procreate now. And so it always a little iffy because that is a thing. But I mean, again, with this situation specifically about this, your character here, I really just think they both use the same commission. Even the original artist thinks so. They also add one more was believed to be traced, and it was this witchy piece, which I posted mistakenly to a furry server on the 19th. I'm still looking this one over as it's a fairly large server, so I wouldn't even know where to start besides bringing it up to the mods. And here is a piece in question. And this was created September 18th. Want to say thank you all for your time in reading this mega post, and I'm sorry if I seemed super off pace with this drama reaching a peak. A lot of people have shown true colors in the past few days, good and bad, and I hope we can all learn from it. And again, this is the doc in question, is a PowerPoint slide that they added. So on their doc, they add that April 4th, 2024, the commissioner gets added to Moth's waitlist. And then here are DMs where it says July 2nd, 2024, sketch file is created for the commission based on metadata. And if I go here, you can see July 2nd, 2024 is when it says the canvas was created. And in the DMs, it says, here's the original sketch I was kicking up. And they attach a work in progress as well, which is the final result of the speed paint that you guys saw. The slide then says that in the Trello metadata, you can see that on July 11th, 2024, the client is added to the commission queue. And sometime in August 2024, the client was given the sketch. Then here, Plague Dog AI makes and posts this AI generated image on September 14th, 2024. So then starting from September 26th, the commission progress was delayed. Then July 5th, 2025, Moth creates the file that ends up as the final product. So it kind of looks like they worked in two different canvases in Procreate. That might seem suspicious, but to be honest, as somebody who also uses Procreate, I can kind of understand because depending on the amount of memory your iPad has, Procreate does have a layer cap. So sometimes I will work on the same file in two different canvases for the reason that I'll work on it up until a certain point and then I completely run out of layers and I'm like, oh, and then I take that image and then I put it into a different canvas and then I go continue working on it. And then I'm like, okay, if I ever have to like revert certain things, I can go back to the original, change aspects of it with all my layer information and then put it back into the other one. That's like my one pet peeve with Procreate, just like the memory limitations of it sometimes. But it continues. July 9th, 2025, final iteration is posted to Twitter. July 25th, 2025, speed paint is posted on TikTok. And here we can kind of back this up to see the speed paint in question, where again, they basically start drawing out of nothing. Now, this is likely because they're tracing off of their own sketch to make this line art, which is how it's appearing the way it is. And again, if you think about it from the sense of like, okay, maybe because one canvas ran out of memory, I don't know how that would happen with a sketch, but maybe it did, right? They had to use a different canvas. Like it could kind of make sense that they would import it and then just trace over it as a private layer. Maybe. I'm personally a little skeptical and I really, really, really want to believe the artist because I really want to hope that like you're not tracing AI, right? I just think it would be an interesting choice to import the sketch as a private layer to then trace it over so it doesn't show up in your speed paint. I'm assuming that's why there's two different files, right? Like why there is a sketch file and then there is a separate file for the render. Like wouldn't it be kind of cool to like have your sketch visible in the background and then you can see the progression of your artwork from sketch to finished product in the speed paint? But maybe they have their reasons. Maybe they want a really clean speed paint. One thing that I just think is a bit interesting with this speed paint in particular, and again, everybody has their own drawing style and I really want to emphasize that again, is the way they draw their line art has a lot of gaps that they then later go into fill, but the gaps are a bit odd. Like here, and I'll replay the speed paint again, you can see the left backpack strap, our left, but the character's right. They render the backpack strap halfway. Like you see half a buckle, and then they don't go to finish the bottom half of the backpack strap till later. Like watch here when we back it up and we kind of go watch it again. They only rendered half the backpack strap, and then they don't fill it in till way later. It just kind of appears. They render the thigh, and then they render the calf. and they rendered the knee last, which is interesting. Again, it could be because they're tracing their existing sketch. The sketch is really clean, so it could just be like, oh, I'm tracing the sketch. Oh, let me just draw what seems fun right now. I really don't want to draw the knee, so I'm going to draw the leg, the lower leg. So people in the comment section are really 50-50, where there's people who say something like this: it's impossible to make identical image with prompt-based generative AI, text to image, on a pre-trained model made by artists. And then Moth says, hey, valid argument. However, the AI artist claims he actually used multiple AI generators. So here is a list of the AI generators, which holy crap, like I have not heard of like any of these. And then this is the generation data, where as you can see, it's all the information again. So what the commenter said seems like a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo, right? It's impossible to make an identical image with prompt-based generative AI text to image on a pre-trained model made by artists. So this is my interpretation of what they mean, right? This image in particular listed here for the prompt is text to image, which means somebody put in text prompt, like, I don't know, I want a furry dog in the sky in an astronaut outfit with the earth behind them, something like that, right? To prompt for an image. Image to image prompting is when you present an image and then you ask the AI to prompt to come out with another image. The commenter is like, wait, this is a bit suspicious. You're like, your claim doesn't seem to hold water, because you're basically inadvertently implying, kind of essentially, right, that somebody took your work and then put it in AI to then generate this image. But in at least the case of this screenshot, that isn't possible, because this was generated from a text prompt, not from an image prompt. And then the commenter is again referring to a pre-trained model made by artists. And that is in reference to this model, the Duck High-10 Pony XL No Score version 5.2 model. So this is at least like kind of what I've gleaned off of the model, but it's listed that the model is pretty simple. It's trained on various art styles of different artists and some unique AI models arranged into separate keywords. So each keyword is a different style and represents a different artist or a unique style, and any change in the keywords or the order of keywords will result in a different outcome. So the model is a pre-trained model. This version specifically, the Duck High-10 Pony XL No Score version 5.2, it was uploaded August 9th, 2024 at just shy of 9 a.m. in the morning. And as a pre-trained model, it is pre-trained on art. So therefore, any artwork after August 9th, 2024 wouldn't have made it into this version of the model. So here, Moth is claiming again that the artist, so the Plague Dog AI who made this, actually uses multiple AI generators. So here are the list of the other AI generators that they use. I could most definitely be completely missing the point here for that particular note, but if we're discussing like this piece in particular, this dog in the orange astronaut suit. Sorry, I keep calling this character the dog, but I think in the fur community, you guys refer to them as furs. I forgot to ask my friend what is the correct terminology. I'm sorry. I'll just say character. But this character specifically is the one in question, right? Because this is the one that is one-to-one similar to Moth's artwork. I would imagine if the Plague Dog AI user uses multiple AIs, right, which most definitely could, it wouldn't make this image, right? Because this is specifically prompted using the Duck High-10 Pony XL version 5.2 model. It would look a little different, right? So to me, that kind of seems like a moot point because it's not arguing the actual question at hand, which is this. But again, I definitely could be missing something here. Some people are like, hey, I'm not really buying what you're saying. But other people are like, yo, you know, this absolutely sucks because like as an artist, AI stole your work so fast that you as an artist can't even prove yourself anymore, which is so unfair. To me, I really want to believe that this is a piece that they genuinely made. There's just some holes in the story. The couple of things that I personally am a bit confused about is in their proof, they say that July 2nd is when they created the sketch file, and they attach a photo of Procreate where it shows the date that the file was created, and they show the work in progress. There's no like actual proof that this untitled canvas, which again, like, I don't know who's naming their canvases in Procreate. I definitely don't. So that's not like, to me personally, a really big of a red flag, but there's nothing linking this canvas specifically to this piece. You know what I mean? Like, if we're playing devil's advocate, this could be a situation where like a screenshot was faked. No problem. Here's the original sketch I was kicking up, and the original sketch looked completely different. For me, I would need a little bit more information to like fully be like, yeah, this is for certain. Like when this sketch was created was July 2nd to believe that. Because I know on July 2nd you made the canvas, but I don't know when you actually did the sketch. Because you could have made the canvas July 2nd, drew a smiley face, and then reopened the canvas 1 month later to actually do the sketch. And then we don't have like any screenshot of a conversation between Moth and the client where Moth on July 2nd is like, here is the file for the original sketch. And then, I don't know, on July 3rd, sends this photo specifically and is like, yep, here's the sketch. What are your thoughts? Because we know that the client received the sketch in August 2024. Unfortunately, August 2024 is also when that AI model was released. So if we're trying to prove a chicken and the egg situation, we're trying to prove, oh, my art came before the model, so there is reasonable doubt that potentially the model was trained off of my artwork and that's how it appeared the way it did, then, that argument would stand possibly because your art was created before. But we do know that your sketch and the model was both released in the same month. So that doesn't unfortunately conclusively prove anything. Now, again, you could try to formulate a second argument of, okay, well, like hypothetically, the sketch was sent in August, the model was also released in August. Somebody took Moth's sketch and then fed it into that AI, right? Which, again, that's not exactly true because this image is a text-to-image prompt. And if somebody took the sketch, put it into this AI generator, and was like, take this and render it or something, right? Whatever you would say to the AI, it would say image to image. So that doesn't really hold water. And then the third thing for me is because of this. We look at it, the rendering is super similar. Like the AI has a triangle on this shoulder and that is also present in this rendering. The AI is also extremely, let me make this smaller. This is like getting, the AI's like helmet area is extremely side lit with some rim lighting and that is also present here. The way the shoulder lighting kind of lines up with this like M shape is also present here. And also the way like here, this lighting on the creases specifically is also present here. And here we have the side lighting on the side of the thigh. And that is heavily present here. And the way the hip lighting is shaped too. We have this like hook and that hook shape is also present in this hip angle as well. You could make the argument, okay, hypothetically, somebody took the sketch from Moth and then fed it into AI. And because of the way Moth drew it, this is the realistic way to light the image, right? Because Moth, has like the earth in the background in their piece and there's the sun in the corner, which again, that isn't present in their work in progress. But if we're playing devil's advocate, right? You could argue, okay, well, maybe like AI generated this exact set based off of Moth's image, and this is the only realistic way to light the image. Then the thigh lighting wouldn't be here because the way the thigh is lit up here, it's implying there's a light source like here that is hitting the thigh because the sun is behind our character. And AI tends to do a thing where it adds like multiple light sources that doesn't exactly exist there, right? So like, especially this little like light piece here, like that just would not be there, right? So then why does Moth's art also have that same kind of like angular lighting on the leg that doesn't quite make sense given the position of the character in the environment? That doesn't make sense because Moth's sketch was allegedly made in July 2024, sent to the client August 2024. Moth didn't render the piece until a year later in July 2025. This AI piece would have been out for like a year by then. So how come the rendering is super similar in terms of where the shadows and highlights are placed, right? In order for this to be true, where the AI was specifically trained off of Moth's artwork, the fully rendered piece that Moth made should have been finished before the AI piece was created in order for this chicken and egg situation to be true. And for the AI piece to actually be an image to image generated image, not text to image, but I digress, right? That timeline isn't making sense. And for me, the honestly final nail in the coffin is why lie? Because here a commenter says, quick question, mostly for educational purposes, and this was where they commented the AI image. And then Moth had attached this where they overlaid the AI image on top of their artwork and highlighted elements that were different in green, being like, oh, the backpack is wonky, the hand doesn't line up, the legs don't line up like this, like the foot is so much bigger on the other image, da 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 da. And again, when I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, you're so right. Like, I'm so sorry that everyone's coming for you. Like, I'm going to look at this and I'm gonna be like, yeah, all these people are like capping and we're good. But that's just not true because the image lines up 1-to-1. That's what I'm confused about. Because otherwise, right? Like if somebody's like, hey, quick question, what about this? Wouldn't you just be like, oh, well, that's because the AI was actually trained off of my artwork and somebody took my art and put it into AI and that is what was generated. But it was based off my art, which is why it looks so similar. Like, come on. And then we have the final nail in the coffin where this commenter writes, Oh no, these AI bros keep using time machines and going back in time, stealing my art and posting it online even before I post my next Your Character Here. And that is in reference to this sketch of kind of like a foxy wolf character in a witch outfit riding on a broomstick. This was something that Moth posted to their page September 27th, 2025. Here is an AI image published September 25th, 2025. And if we overlap them, this is one to one. So yeah, I was trying to give benefit of doubt throughout this whole thing. With the one where like Your Character Here and the other artist piece were super, super, super similar. That one honestly is very believable that they both used the same reference, especially because the way that the art was cropped was the exact size of the reference photo that it's pretty easy to believe, okay, they saw the reference, maybe like drew over it and was like, yep, Your Character Here. Even with the astronaut piece, you know, you can jump through every hurdle possible to try to explain. Maybe there's like this reason that it looks so similar. Maybe it's this reason. Maybe the model was trained off of my art. Maybe somebody fed my art into the model. Maybe they used 30 different AIs though. So maybe it was one of the other AIs, even though this photo looks one to one to my art. I don't know. But then we have this. And it's like at this point, there's that quote that says, first time's a fluke, second time's a coincidence, third time is a pattern. Because we now have a third instance of this, it's kind of like, okay, well, getting really hard to defend this. So guys, I recorded that video right before TwitchCon, maybe like October 15th. This weekend, stuff absolutely hits the fan. So let's get into the second part of this video because you will never expect the plot twist that has happened. So now on October 18th, Moth kind of goes on Twitter, posts a screenshot of this hate email they've received of somebody threatening to dox them. Do not send hate to people. Do not threaten people. That is not cool and that is not okay. And then a day later, Moth posts, yeah, I'm gonna start sending speed paints again along with the finished commissions. So they're kind of like on Twitter, basically at this point, still doubling down on the fact that they're innocent and that they were done wrong and somebody took their sketch and fed it into AI. They also, on the same day, 19th, put out this like conversation thread between them and Selena. Remember, that was the person that originally took their art and fed it into AI, where Moth is asking Selena to take the post down, and Selena is again denying it, being like, oh, this was for personal use, so like, why do I need to ask you? Blah, 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 blah. At the same time, this happened. A Twitter user by the name of Acid Pooch drops this massive document on October 19th. So this is the document. This is my first time compiling a Google Doc or creating a callout, so apologies if things are messy. And that because they're blocked by Moth, we don't see Moth's side in their documents. I'm not blocked, so we can see it. They think Tiger X, Lovelock, and Glitchy Bastard, and everyone else who has helped them compile information. The doc states that Moth has the sentiment that AI has stolen a lot from their artwork, and this document is to prove otherwise. And the list of individuals that have been traced from Plague Dog AI, Bellmark AI, Eclipse, and that is listed as the true artist, Penka Tutorial, Misty Mink, Deuce, Array, Cyanide Sun 1, NSFW Adopts, AI Hell 55, and the AI Ferden. This is the AI video that Selena had generated using the artwork that Moth Dusky made. Again, if you commission somebody for artwork and you run it through AI, that's gross, unless you received explicit permission from the artist to do so. So Moth Dusky suspiciously having their work line up one-to-one to AI doesn't negate the fact that you shouldn't be doing that. So the document kind of goes back and forth about the stuff that we've already talked about. The document also highlights the fact that the way Moth sketches is very odd. And I agree. And going back to the previous stuff that we covered as well, I think it's already odd that they used two different files to make the same piece, suspiciously hiding the sketch in the second piece. It's not using two files that I think it's odd. I think it's odd that they used two files, but then inserted the sketch as a private layer for their own piece. Maybe, again, it was to make the speed paint cleaner, but like I have a hard time believing that. But looking at the way they drew this piece, it's again odd because they start with the mouth and they kind of just build outwards. Again, some people can draw like this. If you draw like this, it doesn't mean you used AI, but they don't have to do any sort of blocking, any sort of restructuring, right? They already start out with the mouth, then they go up to part of the head, and then these amazingly juicy pecs. Like, there was no need to block in the chest position, the leg positions, and immediately on sketching, it's already good. Even seasoned professional artists typically will have to readjust and resize some limbs here and there. Again, if you draw like this, doesn't mean you use AI, but this is something you will see from people who will insert private layers to trace over. So the creator Deuce Array is contacted, and Deuce Array was the one who, if I go up, generated this piece here. As you can see, it was generated by Deuce-IR. And Deuce said, yeah, I'll admit the resemblance is uncanny. I can't explain the similarity as a coincidence. I generated the image from scratch without using anything as a base, but I don't know how to prove this. And then the commenter asked for clarity about text to image versus image to image, where they're asking, does image to image mean you at one point used a pre existing image to enhance the generation, or that you remixed it? And Do says it's okay. I generate some raw photos first in low resolution without details. Then I took some important parts and regenerated that in higher quality. That's definitely the image to image process. But I use my own material. So by Deuce stating they use their own material, they're basically indicating that they didn't go to Moth Dusky's Twitter page, grab their artwork first, and then generate it. Even though, again, the timeline doesn't add up because Deuce's photo was generated first. So then Acid Pooch came out with this information, tagging Moth Dusky and Selena, saying, wait, did I find it? I wonder why I struggled so much on Civet AI. Then I realized what these two artists had in common were that they both uploaded their works on DeviantArt, born from AI, returned to AI. So here we have this side by side, a piece from mistymink.deviantart.com, a furry like snow leopard kind of leaning against the railing with the northern lights in the background. And wow, why does the pose of Moth's piece look so similar to this? And here it's an anthro adopt from Misty Mink. And wow, don't they line up one to one? You know, with like how hard Moth Dusky was playing victim, this may be what you exactly expected from this. And Misty Mink says they're 100% tracing over my generations. I never use any traditional art as a base. You can probably reverse image search that post and see mine was posted earlier. And that was in response to a question where they were asking Misty, hey, Misty, did you like use Moth's artwork as a part of your prompting for this generated image? Where Misty denied it. And this was Moth's response, where Moth said, yeah, in regards to this was a work in progress I was thinking about scrapping just as a client didn't want this pose, was supposed to be a line. Kind of why it looks like my earlier style this year rather than the others. So they're continuing to double down at this point. And in some DMs between the piece and the original commissioner, there is an odd haze around the work in progress, and it highlights that there appears to be a cropped comma next to the date of the sent image. But the doc notes that this is speculation. And here's a screen grab of Selena making a post about the commission, stating that they commissioned Moth on June 2nd and paid on that date, and that they didn't receive progress sketches. And they received an update instead stating the commission window was 4 months and Selena was okay with it. And then on September 7th, they received a cropped image of the nearly completed piece. And later that day, they received the final version. And Selena adds, attached here is a sketch she claims she was working on. If she was, she never shared it with me. From my POV, the art went from my reference sheet to a finished work from June 2nd to September 7th. Never was any progress work shared. She also never delivered the final high-res version to me. I only received the version posted on X. So apparently, I didn't know this. There's a post from Foxino showing that you can actually pretty easily alter the dates of stuff in Procreate, where it looks like, and I could be wrong, but it looks like if you altered the dates on your tablet, it would then reflect in Procreate under date and time, which obviously makes sense because it's Procreate is pulling the date information from your tablet. But I didn't even think about this actually. Now, while this is going on under that post, a bunch of people also noticed that there are some similarities. Where Lovelock says, wow, would you look at that? A fifth example of you tracing. So here's the pose, and here you can see in the work in progress posted by Moth Dusky, it's like 1-to-1. We have another similarities, other ones that are really similar. So here are some close-ups, and this is the piece made by Moth. Here is Moth's work in progress. Wow, why does that line up 1-to-1 to this piece? Here we have this commission they did. That seems to line up 1-to-1 to this too. Here's a Your Character here they're selling for $150, by the way, August 2nd, 2025. Wow. Look at this AI piece. This was published June 24th, 2025. Another work in progress. This is July 1st, 2025. This piece is from June 25th, 2025. Here we have these two side by sides, where the left one is Moth's work and the right one, likely AI generated. Wow. Once again, it lines up 1-to-1. And they added, to Moth Dusky's credit, they refunded me within an hour of me reaching out. I applaud them for trying to make it right. And they also added, they commissioned it December 2024 and found it by going to DeviantArt and searching furry male plus muscular, LOL. Here we have another piece from Moth. This is a piece made by user Eclipse, or 9K Lips. And that lines up 1-to-1. And a user was tagged, was your commission stolen? And they said, that is definitely a commission of mine from back in January. And the doc notes, this one is traced from a real artist, 9Clips, who made a commission for the user Aluminum Siren in January of this year. It seems Moth not only has no issue tracing AI to sell to you, but she's got no moral hiccups with stealing works of other true artists, putting pen to paper, or stylist to tablet. So we have another commission that was directly traced off of this. Here's another one traced off of this. Look, it just keeps going, man. This is, by the way, October 18th, more is found. Here, this piece, And this was posted July 22nd, 2025. This was posted June 24th, 2025. Note that it's again the Plague Dog AI account. Another commission for $100. Would you look at that? Here's a rough sheet they made for somebody October 18th. And then there's this May 22nd, 2025. This one is this pose in specific where like the hands are up kind of. And then somebody's defending them saying, oh, but surely it's like a common pose, you know? Except Acid Pooch found an AI generated rough sheet that actually matches the pose. And yeah, like to be fair, you can give some benefit of doubt of like a rough sheet only has a certain amount of poses you can do, but this person has an astronomical history of tracing at this point. Here are some rough sheet work in progresses posted October 18th. This is the close-up. And September 6th, 2025, there is this adopt. Like that's one-to-one. The face has just changed a teeny bit to have like a not shocked expression. October 18th, mind you, after they already were called out. This is wild. And then there were more. So this is an AI image, June 24th, 2025. July 21st from Moth. July 21st from Moth. This one was published June 24th. Here's another one. They line up 1-to-1. The AI piece from October 23rd, 2024. Moth's artwork. And the doc adds, on October 18th, Moth deletes a large amount of art from her NSFW account, most likely an attempt to hide the images she knows would be easily found. Here's a screenshot of her account currently, showing that the following images are not present anymore. So these are NSFW, gonna be censored, right? But side-by-sides, more side-by-side of the faces. The doc ends in, may I never have to look at the absolute ridiculous amount of furry if I've seen this week. Ever again. Then the doc continues, Moth's go-to evidence, it seems, is to share that she sent a client a sketch and messages, as, I guess, proof that their work came first. I had a past client of hers come to me with messages of their own when he commissioned Moth in May. The DM started May 30th, 2025, where they're asking for Moth's timelines. A reference photo was sent, and then an example photo of some work Moth has done was sent. They ask for a July 30th deadline. Moth agrees to that deadline, and the client once again is like, hey, you'll be okay with a refund by that time, right? June 1st, they noted that they didn't see themselves on their queue list. And then a month and a half later, July 14th, they're like, hey, any idea when this piece will be started? Then July 29th, they said, hey, any updates or progress? What about our agreed upon cancel refund date being July 30th? Moth says was working on it, had a client hold me up with sketches. So July 29th was when they sent that update. The commissioner's asking for some changes, just wanting the character to look more fierce. And again, that sketch was heavily based off of this one that we saw. And again, this piece was generated June 23rd. And we know, at least from the screenshots, that a sketch wasn't sent till July 29th, almost over an entire month after. So the client still isn't kind of satisfied because they wanted a more like fierce look and they felt the piece was looking too smug, possibly because the AI generated image that it was based off of has a character looking very like bashful. Then a new sketch was made and the client is very satisfied with the expression. And wow, look at that. Another piece that it was traced off of. Then the client on August 15th wasn't satisfied because the completed work still wasn't delivered, and so they've issued a case with PayPal for a refund. Moth then was like unhappy, being like, I want to inform you that despite my TOS depicting the obvious rule of no refunds after sketch is accepted, not to mention the alterations and rework, you still decided to issue the refund, and you will be placed on my blacklist. Odd, because look, I get it as an artist, out of the left field chargebacks are really uncalled for, but literally earlier in the DMs, like right in the beginning, the client is like, hey, so you allow feedback and refund will be issued if work isn't completed by July 30th. And Moth says, thank you. Isn't that you verbally confirming that if you don't deliver by July 30th, the client is okay to charge it back? Like, I know your TOS says one thing, but you agreed to this in the DMs. So wouldn't that like override your TOS because you verbally confirmed it? And the doc reads, it's interesting to see that Moth claims to have sketched not one, but two completely custom pieces for this client on the same day and sent them both to the client for approval July 29th. When Plague, remember that's the AI account, had already posted his pieces before she did. Moth inevitably ended up reusing the first traced sketch for another client. And that is what you can see here, which is unfortunately traced. So in response to that, Moth's response is, those aren't even remotely the same pieces, but you're more than entitled to your own opinion. They do be lining up like 1-to-1 here. So now we go to Moth's Trello. This has a client's poor experience with Moth, who's only offered a refund after the customer opens a case through PayPal. Instead of giving the refund, Moth colored the your character here and then then blacklisted them. So here, client A is like, yep, I'm gonna refund you because I commissioned you for a your character here and I've waited 5 months. I contacted you in February asking about it, and you said you'd be working on all the your character here's that week. Yep, I saw. Sorry, currently working through queues. I don't offer refunds on your character here's in my TOS. You're not allowed to say no refunds ever and then never deliver the work. That's not how that works. The Moth's like, I see you opened the case. If you want to, I could provide a refund, but it won't be through that account. I can only urge you to close the case there and I can settle your funds elsewhere. Please don't ever do that. If you originally paid through one PayPal account and they're asking you to pay through another PayPal account, there can be genuine cases where somebody lost access to an account for a reason that wasn't their fault. But a lot of times it's done through scam as well, where, you can't charge back that account. Like they give you money through a different account and they can take that money back. It's so messy, please. And Moth adds, I don't want to make it seem like you're being ignored or treated unfairly. If you want your money back, I'll be happy to hand it to you. And the client rightfully asks, hey, why doesn't that account have any ties with you anymore? The PayPal account. And Moth adds that PayPal doesn't allow NSFW content to be sold through its platform and that they didn't know that. So Moth again offers a refund elsewhere to finish the your character here. The client wants the refund. The client then gives their PayPal and they say, just give me a week or so to gather funds so I can pay my quarterly taxes. So here's another client who considered Moth a friend and commissioned Moth, but were denied changes to the art during the sketching phases, then given a finished piece without approval, where the client says, you're being vague and scaring me. Just make it larger. Moth says, I'll take care of it. And the client says, just say you're gonna fix it. Stop scaring me. And Moth's like, trust me, I've gone to school. I know this. Like, I won't hinder your character at all. And the client's just concerned because they want the character to look like their design. And Moth says, I know that, but you hired me to draw in the way I draw, not how you draw. People have tried to hire me to draw like other artists, and I have to draw the line somewhere. The client's like, yeah, but that's incredibly different than what I'm asking. And the client has a character that's a black-tailed deer, so they really want the design to look like a black-tailed deer and not any other animal that isn't a black-tailed deer, which is completely valid. So Moth sends a photo and is like, don't say a word about the ears. They look bigger with color. And the client is just not even happy about this. And the client says, her excuse was, this is how I see him. My TOS reserves me that right. When I objected, she crashed it in my DMs and made public posts that quoted me without mentioning my name. I don't think as a client or friend, I should be at your mercy and slandered if we disagree. I lost a friend in the end, but I don't think that I was a friend in her eyes, just a revenue stream. She never put me on the Trello and for some reason prioritized me on the commission list over people who have been waiting for months longer than me. Still did it even if I objected to it. I don't know what was going on, but a lot of people are coming forward to me about it. So here's another client who commissioned Moth and was brushed up for over 2 months. They wanted their art fixed and Moth has still not helped the client, and the client has been removed from their Trello. And if you guys don't know, Trello is like a tracking board where artists will track their commissions. So to be removed means they basically like glossing over you. On October 20th, another client had lost faith. They had 3 art pieces in progress with Moth, and they were stating that if it's not started, as per Moth's TOS, they want a full refund. If it has been started, then they want partial refund because that's again part of Moth's TOS. Then Moth all of a sudden sends 3 art pieces, skipping the Trello queue for this person and hastily sharing all the files for their commission, despite being told they want a refund. And the client says, I received the files, but I can clearly see they were rushed only after I requested a refund, likely to avoid processing the cancellation. Given the situation, I still want a refund, and I would prefer to resolve this privately and respectfully, but I do expect fairness according to your TOS, and that they felt this was a method to deny a legitimate refund. Moth says, these were not rushed. I noticed you have a fair amount of orders placed and did the same with a few people who coupled the leash and muzzled your character here. I'm gonna deny you the refund either way as now you have the files. Reporting this transaction would be you asking for a refund for work that's already done. On a side note, this isn't the first time that artists will do this, where when pressured for a refund for a reason or another, either not completing the work in 2 years or something, they'll like rush the artwork in like a couple days or like a day just to be like, oh, well, I don't have to give you a refund. So here's another case where a client is refunded 50% of the commission price from Wise, the card company, but Moth still kept 100% of the initial payment. Now, how much money has Moth made? This is Moth's Reddit account. You can literally see user Moth Dusky, it's their art. And 10 months ago in r/tax questions, they added that their digital art business made over $10,000. So what should they do now? So here they also add that as part of a Your Character Here back in December, they made $14,000. This was a DM conversation on June 19th, 2025. So on the low end for Your Character Here's, they made $5,000 if not $4,000. And they usually have to pay out around $4,000 every 3 months to the IRS. This is me just extrapolating a little bit more, but this would mean that they would pay about $16,000 around. It could be more, it could be less, depending on how they calculated their estimate taxes payments in the previous year, they would be paying like $16,000 in taxes. If you pay $16,000 in federal income tax, this is like a ballpark guess, right? Because like the amount you pay in taxes differs a lot depending on this, that, and the third, how many deductions you have, whether you have to pay for capital gains and losses, etc. But you could estimate to be making between $85 to $100,000 USD if that's how much you're paying in taxes. This is a caveat because the amount of money you pay per quarter for US federal taxes is actually calculated the year before. So for me to determine how much money I pay in federal tax, quarterly taxes 2026, I would calculate that number in 2025 without even seeing the money that I've made in 2026 because obviously I'm in 2025. So you're calculating based off of your guess on how much money you're going to earn that year. So there could be a case where like your federal estimated taxes is like $3,000 per quarter, but great things happen. You ended up making a buttload of money. And then at the end of the year, you still have to pay a bunch more taxes because you underestimated how much you're going to pay. There could also be the flip side where, let's say you just estimated your income. Maybe you made like 100K in 2024. So you think you're going to make 100K in 2025. But then the government did their tariff stuff and then you got bodied and then you made less money. So then you would end up overpaying your taxes through the estimated tax payments, and then you would receive it back in a refund because you made less money. It is what it is, but it would tell me that at least they estimated in 2024 that in 2025 they would make between $85 to $100,000 USD. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a financial analyst. I pay estimated taxes. So this would be my guess. So here is an archive of her current workload on Coffee and Trello as of October 18th, 2025. So simple ref sheets, pinup renders, icon badges, the werewolf your character hears, the undressing your character here, and the prices are good, right? And you can see how many she has sold. So according to the doc, user TigerX grabbed these screenshots and Loveluck added them up. So there currently apparently is 21 full body commissions, 63 fully rendered pinups, 16 reference sheets, 14 badges, 36 werewolf your character hears, 30 maw your character here, 4 strut your character hears, 17 werewolf your character here, 6 joystick your character here, 5 size different your character here, 4 riding, 25 undressing, 89 muzzle, 34 leashed, 12 pumpkin patch. And the grand total is about 376 customers who are currently and actively awaiting a commission according to this document. And the total earnings from the active queue alone is $28,225 for likely tracing over almost all the pieces or a significant amount of the pieces. The last thing the doc covers is Moth's old account, where it says, "Hi, Moth Dusky here. I want to take a moment to say my old account, Fire Inklings, did have art that was traced. I moved over to this account making an art profile only with some silly posts here or there. I made an effort to contact the clients a few weeks ago when the situation broke out entirely. Most clients were inside a Discord server where I made an apology, and some were on Twitter, but unfortunately most were blocked. The commissions I did before May were traced. I'm completely sorry from the bottom of my heart." And this is apparently from 2023. And the doc basically concludes final thoughts that they believe Moth Dusky has some genuine artistic ability, just not what she's portraying, and that the 400 ongoing commissions is a lot, and that cutting corners to get paid quick and get art quick is not the way to go. And that they should go on live stream to truly show their evidence, opening up chats, showing through their timelines, etc. Because right now there is no substantial proof from Moth's side. It reads, "As it stands, the burden of proof has fallen squarely on the shoulders of the doubters," which is this document, while Moth scrapes by with a "trust me, bro, I swear I didn't do this." And then there's an honorable mentions where somebody generated 1,000 images of Yin astronauts and compared their line art similarity to Moth Dusky's art. Here's Playdog's like catalog of astronaut generations. Another user, Keytrier, also conducted a trial to try to generate the hyena using only text to image. That's a bit scary. Would you look at that? And it wasn't done using Moth Sketch. And look, here's Acid's dog. Yippee! And you thought that was the end of it? Nope, because there's a second document. This document reads, "Moth Dusky Doc 2.0, the biggest fraud in furry art history. Exposed, paying for theft, how Moth Dusky funds AI while selling traced art to you." Now again, because this document contains a lot of information from the previous documents, I won't be covering the repetitive information, but this document as community safety notes, do not under any circumstance threaten Moth Dusky in any way, shape, or harm. So section 1, there were 32 additional tracing incidents that were found. So Moth had posted their artwork October 8th. The AI generated image was September 8th, exactly 1 month prior. Here's the image, here is the trace. That overlaps 1 to 1. Here we have 2 more. Moth's artwork, the AI image. Wow, that also overlaps one to one. This one has a 1 year gap overlapping almost one to one. If you like resize it a little bit, it will probably fit. That is very one to one here. Here we have pieces that are 6 months apart. You can see exactly how it's overlapping here. These two images. I also want you to note that like Moth's rendering style changes a lot depending on what they are actually tracing off of, with some looking a lot more hyper realistic than others because they're tracing a much more hyper realistic image. These side by sides, 1 month later, a commission, by the way. Oh, that's one to one, one to one. Yeah, this gotta be censored, but would you look at that? Sorry, the emojis are this is one to one. Dude, it just keeps going. Like, just take a look at this. Come on. So the thing is, like, Moth's defense, if you as we keep looking down on this, right, you can see Moth's artwork, the AI generated image, and the overlap. Moth's defense this entire time was that, oh, well, like, the AI actually used my artwork and the AI trained off of my artwork. And they grabbed my sketch and fed it through AI. Or like they doctored the date or something to make it look like the date came before. Like every loophole ever. A long-winded way of saying, well, trust me, bro, I'm legitimate. It's just the AI that actually stole from me. But there's no way you have like 50 plus commission pieces, your character here's, that line up one to one, and every single one of them, an AI or an actual human created art piece that came before your art piece. You know, truth is stranger than fiction. So there could be, and when I was recording the first segment, right, I really wanted to believe the artist. I really did. Truth is stranger than fiction. So there maybe could be an off case where like somebody took your art and then fed it to an AI and then generated it and then made you look like the scammer. But like I said earlier, right? Like the first time's a fluke, the second time's a coincidence, the third time is a pattern, and the 50 something time is you trying to get away with it. Especially knowing that they had a history of actually doing this in 2023. Then they rebranded, came back, and is still doing it. Look at this. Look at this. So Moth had posted this October 19th. Let's end the drama here. I have exhausted all my abilities into attempting to prove I didn't trace it. I'm tired. The constant harassment that has transferred from here to other social platforms and emails. I've received death threats and even was threatened with a few instances of doxing, and I'm not going to harbor my pride over the safety of my family. To the clients whom are suspicious of any AI relation in my artwork, I can only provide a speed paint and layer proof that no AI was used. I've exhausted all my savings into refunding, so I only ask for your patience in this time. The speed paint will include thumbnails, rough sketch, line work, and of course, shading and rendering. If anyone wants any speed paints in the near future, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm more than happy to provide my innocence, but threats and doxing is where I draw the line. I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. I want to prove myself. On a side note, I always find it very interesting every time people like this, artists, scammers like this, later get caught and people are asking them for refunds, and they're like, I have exhausted all my money offering refunds. I can be empathetic in this economy that like shit's rough, right? But like you were out here running a little scamming ring, scamming people with traced works. That money wasn't yours to spend because you were eventually going to get caught. So like I always think it's interesting when they say that, like, oh, I'm so broke now that I have to offer refunds. Like this was money you shouldn't have had in the first place because you acquired it through scamming. Doc ads. Each comparison clearly shows identical poses, anatomy, composition, and lighting that could not occur by coincidence. With over 70 different pieces now confirmed as traces and zero verifiable original work in her entire recent portfolio, we can state with absolute certainty Moth Dusky has traced every single piece she's produced for at least the past 2 years. And this isn't speculation, it's a statistical reality. When you find 70 plus traces and can't find a single original work, the probability that just those specific pieces were traced approaches zero. So, how did the investigation team find this out? Wow, Moth Dusky has a secret DeviantArt account. So apparently Moth Dusky is deleting the DeviantArt account, but everything has been archived. It's an account by the name of FoxyLove21, where here you can see the smoking gun. On her DeviantArt, she's been favoring the exact AI artwork she traces, while publicly denying everything. We can see this one, remember? This one was like the first frame that we saw. We have this one here, this one. See those red circles? Every single one matches artwork she's traced and sold. This is her shopping cart. She browses AI art, favorites pieces she likes, then traces them for clients. We stopped at 70, not because we ran out, because that's damning enough. Her favorites are full of hundreds of more AI pieces. Now, connecting Moth Dusky to the DeviantArt account, where you can literally see again, this was Moth Dusky tweeting that apology about her old account Fire Inklings being full of traced work. But it's a lie. So the Reddit account Fire Inklings has this piece here, where it's Moth Dusky's old Reddit account from 3 years ago, where the signature says Fire Inklings, and the same artwork is on Moth Dusky's TikTok account in 2022. Also, again, this is like a little tiny thing, but a lot of people who make aliases will carry elements of their previous alias into their new one, right? We have Fire Inklings, Moth Dusky, but what's the middle ground? Their TikTok account, whereas their TikTok account is called Fire Dusky. Interesting. This is the Deviant art account where you can see there's artwork, which looks to be very, very hand drawn and legitimate, with the same signature posted by Foxy Love. Here we have another Foxy Love art piece with the Fire Inklings. This one, their signature is actually written out. And as of October 19th, 2025, the account is still in use because there's an art piece posted 3 days ago that was favored. Somebody commented the DeviantArt account asking Moth Dusky if it was theirs, and Moth says, no, I haven't had a DeviantArt in years. I'll take a look at it. Also, about the DeviantArt, a little bit later, there's even more damning evidence posted by Acid Pooch. And they write, but Mothy, I thought you hadn't had a DeviantArt in years. Why do you have your account tabbed open in this June 10th, 2025 photo of your triple monitor setup? So this is the original post, June 10th. The office had to thoroughly clean for the lease walkthrough before we move. Triple monitor setup here, and here is the Trello. Oh, what is that screenshot here? I don't even know how they found this. Like, Pooch, how did you find this? This is wild. If you zoom all the way in here, wow, there's a DeviantArt. There's a letter that exceeds beyond the text line, and then 4 characters later, a letter below, and then 2 numbers at the end. And then here is a much more high-res screenshot where you can see it literally matches this. Hello? You can't be denying that. And then section 4, caught in the act, October 2025. This is where the evidence becomes absolutely damning. So here, they posted a work in progress. Working on something. The AI source material was generated October 15th. It lines up 1-to-1. You're gonna be called out for tracing AI. You know, that was just the one instance between Selena and you just continue to do it. What the helly? This is either the most smartest criminal or the most lackadaisical one, because what? The commenter says, I don't think that if you're tracing AI images, that it would be public AI images generated by somebody else. It's easy to make private images. So I don't believe anyone would Google AI images to trace. And Moth says, exactly. Now, there is a post here where basically somebody was like, again, comparing some of their artworks to this. And they said, like, be so for real, dude. This is gross. This was a piece made by Deuce IR. This piece is under Foxy Love's favorites. Remember that witchy fox from like hours ago now, I feel like, in this coverage? Foxy Love favored that too. Either you are so big brain that you're like, oh, if I make the tracing super obvious, then I can just be like, well, no idiot would ever do this, so like it can't be me. Or you literally just give 0 F. How? Come on, if you were gonna do this, like at least hide it a little better. Like this is actually just blatantly crazy. And the doc adds, we can verify that Moth Dusky has never posted artwork before its AI counterpart appeared. Not once, not ever. Let's think about her claims logically. Moth wants you to believe that 10 plus different AI artists and real artists somehow obtained her work in progresses years before she posted them, independently created AI versions using image-to-image technology, all without her knowing, for about 70 plus pieces. Let's be clear, this is virtually impossible. The probability, 0. The probability that she's tracing AI art, 100%. The timestamps don't lie. The AI art always comes first. And then section 5, the ultimate hypocrisy. She pays for AI art. Moth Dusky has publicly condemned AI art as theft from real artists, which it is, while she's positioned herself as a victim of AI technology. She's been paying hundreds of dollars to AI art generators. Let's check her favorites on DeviantArt. According to the sum, $24 a year subscription to the AI Furden, $12 a year subscription to Victor Harlow AI, $12 a year subscription to Gen AI Boru, $100 pack from NSFW Adobs, $100 pack from Veil AI, $99 pack from Lumi May, $50 pack from Bunny Berry, $10 pack from Tierra Toxin, multiple gallery purchases, and subscriptions to AI creators. The total visible spend going for $644.12. And the doc just continues to more logical arguments about how, like, Moth's argument is feasibly wrong. And look at, again, all of the artists she's watching. So many AI artists in here. Artists in loose quotes, right? If you are this vehemently against AI-generated works, why are you following and watching? By watching, it's basically following on DeviantArt, right? All of these AI creators. And again, look at the favorites, right? Subscribe to unlock. You can't see these unless you're subscribed to them. So her pattern becomes crystal clear. You can't make modifications, probably because she traces everything from AI, so she actually can't modify it, doesn't know how. You can't ask for refunds under any circumstance. This is to try to cover her butt in case she gets found out for all of this tracing. So the business model is her paying AI generators at least $644 per year for content, tracing that content, selling it for $50 to $200 plus per commission, and massively profiting. And the cruelty is she doesn't care about people. She cares about herself and fast, easy money, and has a super restrictive TOS as a result. And section 8, a message to Moth Dusky. you actually had talent. And they were doing very like semi-realistic portraits. And it goes into saying you had the ability to approve legitimately and you could have been a respected artist. But instead, you chose the shortcut and chose to lie about it in the process. You used everyone, people who fought for you and people who believed in you. That's not just fraud, it's cruelty. And the most unforgivable part, you had multiple chances to come clean and you doubled down every single time. Do the right thing. Admit what you've done, refund clients, apologize to your defenders, and step back from commissions. And for the community, they weren't wrong to give benefit of doubt. You're not wrong to believe in second chances. You showed compassion and fairness, and you were betrayed. That's on her, not you. For those who are suspicious, you are right to question. You are right to ask for proof, and thank you for not letting this slide, even when it's uncomfortable. For artists, this is why we must protect our community. Art tracing and AI fraud hurts everyone by devaluing real artistic skill, scamming commissioners, eroding trust between artists and clients, and making it harder for legitimate artists to be believed. For commissioners, learn to protect yourself. Request work in progress shots at multiple stages. Ask about their process. Be suspicious of an ironclad TOS that won't allow modifications or any refunds. Watch for style inconsistencies. Check turnaround times. Google reverse image search notable pieces and trust your instincts. And for the credits, the investigation was conducted by Acid Pooch, Lovelock, Wrong Javi, Tiger X, and Waytake. And what does Moth have to say after all of this? They write, on October 20th, I'm sorry. I want to sincerely apologize for the recent work I completed. I closely reference AI generated material and I failed to sufficiently distinguish it as my own original work. That was a mistake, and it compromised the integrity of the artwork. I take full responsibility and assure you I will adhere to all guidelines regarding originality and creation moving forward. I do want to ask for patience in this time as I have refunded all the clients whose art I did reference AI in and rightly deserve handmade art. With this being said, I'm lowering all my prices dramatically as I feel I have to redeem myself. I just want the harassment to stop, as I have now gotten phone calls, text, emails, all containing death threats and or doxing. I'm sorry. I once again have to reiterate, harassing and attacking people is not okay. Do not harass Moth Dusky, even though they are basically one of the largest furry scammers that we've seen so far. There's a couple others, but they're one of them now. It truly is something that only time will tell whether they will change. It's a little bit, for me, personally, hard to believe because they write, I failed to sufficiently distinguish it as my own original work. I closely reference AI generated material. That was a mistake. I have a hard time believing this was a mistake when it was something you did and was caught for in 2023 and then rebranded, being like, yeah, here's a new account. Like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And then you did it again. I'm all for giving second chances, right? People are growing and changing as they get older, as they learn more experiences. But this was literally an experience you went through already. And then you learn from it, right? And then you did it again, so you actually didn't learn from it. And now you're sorry again because you once again got caught for this. Only time will tell. I really hope they get better and they actually learn to not do this and stop scamming people. And the worst part is because they legitimately have hands that can draw, and they can draw well, looking at their previous work, that they actively just continuously, over the course of years, made the choice to not do this because they could profit quickly from it. I hope they learn. I hope they stop scamming people. And only time will tell. We'll be taking a look. At least they admitted it. They did that after doubling down like 3,000 times. So I'm curious about your thoughts at the end of the day. I will have all of this, including the docs, link down below in the comment section. Apologies for it coming out a little late. All of this, like the main meat and bones of this, unfolded over TwitchCon, and I kind of lost my voice. So this is why I sound like this. So anyways, if you like this video, I appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out on Etsy. I have digital art there for streamers and creators. I also have a coffee with free resources like a free sponsorship guide, and I stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays at 6 p.m. PST. So hope to catch you all there or in another video.